So let's start with this. It says, a hat company claims that the mean hat size for a male is at least 7.25. It says the word claims. Now, go to the last sentence, or when they ask you, can you reject the company's claim? So the word reject, is it going to make it be the H-O or the H-A? H-O. So therefore you know that your claim is going to be your H-O. Okay? So we're going to start with that. And I want you to say, claim. So how do you write your H-O? U is at least. How do I say at least? At least. At least means you have that much or more. Big money in your pocket. At least 7.25. Think about money in your pocket. If I say I have at least $7.7, does it mean I could have more? I have at least. So if you need to borrow, you say, well, yeah, I have at least $7. So you're good for at least 7 and maybe more. Okay. So therefore we know that our HA is what? Good. What tail test do we have? Left. There's one of the questions. I give you these two things. I ask you what tail test it is. That's a left tail test. I'm using p-val right now. So I just draw my left tail test. Okay? I pull out my sample stuff. I have a sample of 12 hats. 12 is my N, my sample size. I have a sample mean of 7.15. I have a population standard deviation of 0.27. And I have a level of significance that I'm testing against of 0.01. Okay? Can we reject this company's claim? Okay, so we're going to see what we can do with this now. So when I'm testing p-val, this is going to represent where my value is from my test. This is going to represent my test statistic. And we're going to look at the areas under those curves. The area under that curve compared to the 0.01 area. Okay, so we're going to use your z-score formula. One formula for z-score. Because we use a sample, we have to divide by the square root of n. So we get 7.15 minus 7.25 over 0.27 divided by the square root of 12. Some of you have trouble finding the n. Make sure you get the correct n. So you're going to put this in your calculator, and you're going to round correctly to how many decimal places? 2. So what did you get for your z-score? 1.28? Everybody get 1.28? Negative 1.28. Okay, so now, I'm going to take my z-score, and I'm going to find the area under the curve. This is where my p-value comes from. It is the area under the curve to the left of that z-score. So I take my table, and I look up the area to the left. I look up negative 1.28. And I find my area to the left to be what? Good. Everybody get the size of p-val? That's this area right here. This area right there is 0.1003. Does it make sense to me? Is it less than 50%? Yeah, because it's only shaded in very less than 50%. So now, here's your test. You're going to say p-val. Level of significance. I'm going to leave this up for you, and I'm going to give you a chart like this on a printout, so you have it right next to you. You don't have to strain to see it up here. Line this up. P-val. Level of significance. Fill this in with zeros. It's a decimal. You can fill in as many zeros to the right. This number is greater than. This is my decision. So what is my decision? Fail to reject HO. And you need to say this. If you just say fail to reject, it's wrong. You listening? If you say fail to reject the claim, it's wrong. It has to say fail to reject HO. Then we're going to take a step back and we're going to write the interpretation. So we're going to say my claim was my HO. I failed to reject it. So did I like it? If I fail to reject it, yeah, I kind of have to go along with it, but I have to follow my chart, and I'm going to write this whole thing out. There is not enough evidence at a level of significance of 0.01 to reject the claim that the men's hat size is at least 7.25. The average hat size is at least 7.25. I have to write that whole statement out. So I'm going to write it up here. There, I have to follow this. There is not enough evidence. If you want to write there is insufficient evidence, that works fine. They kind of keep this chart real simple. And you're going to say, at a level of 0.01, to reject the claim, and we wanted to reject or not reject that the mean hat size is at least, for men, is at least 7.25. 7.25. This is the whole entire problem. I'm going to ask you for this whole entire thing. Now you're going to get a couple of problems up front. Yes.
Wait, how did you know it was a left tail test again?
A left tail test because the tail goes by the HA.
Okay.
So I take the claim and I take its complement. So it's like my number line. So on my number line, here's 7.25. I say this is this and greater. What's left? Less than.
Okay.
I make a complement situation. My HA is always the one without the equal sign.
The HA is always the one that
The tail.
fits. Okay.
Sarah?
When you put in like the stat and then test and Z-test, when you calculate all that and you get the answer for like the Z-score instead of doing the formula, what is that? Like it also gives a P.
That's what you're looking for this one.
Yeah.
For this one, you're looking for your p-val. So we're going to go to Z-test. For those of you that love the calc, I love the calc for these things. Your population mean comes from your statement. That's what you're making, a statement about the population. You're testing it with your samples. So I come get my standard deviation. I get my test. I get my N. Now, my tail follows my HA. If it's pointing to the left, point that to the left. Because this value is this up here. So it's my U is less than 7.25. That's how I read this. Just follow the tail of your HA. Calculate. Now, doing this, there's my Z-score. I don't have to do any of this. Because it's a p-val test, all I need to do is get this p-val right in here. And my p-val is right in here. Now your calculator and your table are slightly different because of the rounding. We round to look at the table. The calculator does it different. So if this is my p-val, oops, 1 second, 0.0997, and that's a 4. I just need to round to 4 positions. This is my p-val. It's very, very close to this one. Very close to that one. It's just that your calculator has a different rounding. So your test is going to show me this down here. And you're going to tell me calculator. You're going to show me the steps you put, and you don't have to do any of this if you're using your calculator. But you have to give me the calculator step. Make sure you say Z-test on your calculator step. And I'm fine with the calculator answers. The calculator doesn't, we rounded our Z-score, and we're forced to look at our table. So your calculator doesn't have to do any of that. It has its own algorithm for this. But your answer should still come out the same. Okay? I work them out both ways, formulas and calculators, so I'll know exactly what you get. Questions? So I'll kind of break this up. So the first part, before I ask you to do something like big, is Write me a claim. Give me its alternative. Tell me which one is HO, HA. That's question 1. Question 2 is going to say, tell me what tail test this is. I'll give you a claim and it's HA, HO. Tell me what tail test it is. Just simple questions, just to get you to start thinking that way. I'll have you interpret a statement. Follow the chart, interpret it. What's my decision? Okay. And then I'll ask you for a critical value. And then I'll have you do one p-value without the word things. So you just have to test and give me a decision. And then one p-value with the whole thing like this. It'll look just like this. There's nothing different. Okay? Questions at all before we do the other one? All right. Reject region is the next one. That was set up a little tiny bit differently. You start with the claim. A tourist agency in Nevada claims that the mean daily cost of meals and lodging for 2 adults traveling in their state is more than $300. So what's my claim? Mean is more than. More than means what? Greater than. Do I have an equal sign here?
No.
Sarah, this is the most important part.
I didn't know you asked me now.
Okay, so no equal sign. It's more than. So is this the HO or the HA? HA. The claim can be either. So John, tell me the HO.
HO is, well, that's that way, is less than or equal to 300.
Good. Perfect. Perfect. What tail test do we have?
That would be a right.
A right tail test. It goes by the one without the equal sign. So now, because this is a reject region, I need to label my regions. This has to say reject HO where your shading is. This has to say fail to reject HO. If you leave out the HO, it's wrong. Because what am I rejecting? I need to reject or not reject HO. Okay, now, I get my test information. You work for a consumer protection advocate and you want to test this. In a random sample of 35 pairs, because they're traveling 2 at a time, so n is 35. I don't multiply that by 2. I leave that. The mean, sample mean, is 316. And your standard deviation is 30. And a level of significance of 0.10. Okay, it says, do you have enough evidence to support this claim? I'm just going to verify this. So I look to see my support words means my claim is my HA. Is my claim my HA? Good. So it means I'm on the right track. So now, with the reject region, you got to find a critical value. This guy right here is your critical value. It's where I cut this graph off, so bless you, so that this area is 0.10. How am I going to find that cutoff value, that critical value? What'd you say, Angela? Go ahead, Z-score. What am I going to do? How am I going to find that Z-score? Inverse norm. So I'm going to go to my calculator, inverse norm. I'm going to go inverse norm, second pairs. What am I going to put in? What'd you put in, Harambe?
Just put in the 0.0.
Okay, so 0.10, how many tails are there? 1, so I'm going to divide by 1, which does it change if I divide by 1? Good. And I'm going to get to paste. Now I'm going with Harambe told me, but I get a negative. So you know it's to the right side. It's positive. It's the same area over here, but it's positive. So my critical value, this is called a critical value, is 1.28. So instead of looking at my areas, I took the area that this would, and I found its z-score. So now, all I need to do is find my z-test. This is called my test statistic. I put in my z-score, take my sample minus my population. I get my standard deviation divided by the square root of n. And 2 decimals, what did we get? Anybody get a z-score?
3.16.
3.16?
Yep.
Okay, now, I go to 3.16 and I don't have to look up the area for this because I'm doing a z-score test. I look over here. This is my cutoff. Does 3.16 come to the left or to the right of 1.28?
That's right.
To the right, it comes over here. What area did it fall in?
HO.
So my decision is reject HO. Now, let me just think this through for a second. My claim is in HA. If I reject this guy, am I supporting my claim? I'm taking this guy out of the picture. So I'm supporting my claim. And it makes sense because I'm going to follow my chart. My claim is my HA. I'm rejecting HO. So I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to support this. Then I'm going to write, there is enough evidence. This is what you have to write. At a level of significance of 0.10 to support the claim that the mean cost of meals and lodging, where are we, in Nevada? Nevada is more than $300. I'm supporting that claim. You've got to write that whole thing out for me. I don't want to see support the claim. Because you won't get any credit for it. Does this make sense? So one question I'm going to have is going to be find me a critical cutoff value. Label your graph and find me a critical cutoff value. And then you're going to do a full one of these. That's it. Test in a nutshell. Go home and study these two.